And I can't help but ask myself how much I let the fear take the wheel and steer. What do we for? It seems the path of faith, haunting mass appeal. Lately, I'm beginning to find that I'm behind the wheel. Till never tomorrow brings, I'll be there with open arms and open eyes, yeah. Whatever tomorrow brings, I'll be there. I'll be there. What's up, Rick?
What's up, Darius? How you doing?
Welcome to the Greatness Machine, my man.
How did you pull in like one of my favorite songs? I love that. Incubus is one of the best bands ever.
Man, you know what? That's why we asked the question, what's your favorite song on the intake form? So I'm so glad you picked that. I love that song.
It was either going to be that or Copacabana, Barry Manilow. I mean,
I'll do it. Listen, I'm agnostic. I'll sing any good song. Guys, welcome to the Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius Mirshahzadeh, and boy, do we have a special guest with us today, my main man, Rick Girard. Welcome, my brother. Woo!
Woo! Happy to be here.
Oh,
I'm going to have to drop and do another 20 push-ups just to catch up to your energy level right now.
I could turn it on like that. Guys, for those of you guys that know, we are the Greatness Machine. We're about two things: people who are living their passions and people who are creating greatness in the world. My man, Rick, is creating both greatness and doing it with passion. So, Rick, do you mind if I do a little bit of housekeeping and then we get rolling?
Go for it, brother.
All right, guys. As you all know, we are live. So start a watch party. Ask us questions. Hit the like button. Hit the love button. Hit the love button again. If you want a third time, you just do it softly. And then we're going to, start a watch party. Hit the like button. Share this. Ask us questions. With that said, what I'd like to do is give you guys a little bit of background. So, Rick, can I tell them how we met?
Sure, go for it.
So I was on what's that app? Not Bumble, the swipe right one. No, I'm just messing.
Grindr?
Yeah, I was on Tinder. I swiped right, and there he was. There
should be a new app for bald guys, just so we can all connect up.
Balder.
Yeah, call it Balder. Swipe right.
Grinder, Balder. So we have a mutual friend, Stephanie Paul. She was on the show. I love Stephanie, and she's like, "Oh, you got to meet my friend Rick." And so we hooked up, and he had me on his show, Higher Power, which was badass, by the way. Thank you so much for having me on there, man.
Oh yeah, and by the way, you blew up. Thank you.
Oh, dude, I did. I try to serve, and you made it easy because you're such a great host and such a good guy to do this stuff with. So thank you for having me on there. And so we were on the show. And then I was like, man, you got to come on my show because we're what I like about you, Rick, is Rick. So I'll talk about what Rick does because he does a lot. But we're talking all about values and how you use it to build a better business, especially on recruiting and hiring. And it was just a really, really fun conversation. And then I had another guest, Gino Wickman, that hit me up, and he's like, hey, I'm thinking about writing the foreword. Am I allowed to say this actually?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So he's like, hey, Darius, do you know Rick Girard? This is off air. And for those of you guys that watch the show or don't watch the show, you know that like Gino Wickman's like too legit, too legit to quit, right? Straight up MC Hammer style.
Traction, like EOS is the bomb. Like, yeah. Yeah,
he's no joke. And so he's like, hey, do you know Rick Girard? And I said, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about writing the foreword for his book. Like, what do you got to say about him? I'm like, oh, he's the man. He's like, you got to do it. And so we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, that it was funny. That's how you came up offline. But with that said, do you mind if I give the formal bio?
Go for it.
All right, we'll do the formal bio. Then we're going to dive into some juicy juice.
And feel free to make up whatever shit you want. Like, whatever makes me sound better.
Yeah. Well,
I'll take it.
Well, look, there's a lot of good stuff going on here. So, Rick, you're in OC, right? Where you're in like South County, Orange County, right?
Yeah, I'm in Newport Beach.
Newport. So my man Rick here is in Newport. He's friends with my girl Stephanie. What's up, Stephanie? And you are the founder and CEO of the internationally renowned Stride and Search. Stride Search is an organization that enables startups to gain a competitive advantage by formalizing the process of maximize candidate engagement, helping clients achieve 98% success rate, hiring the people they need to succeed. So, man, he does some badass stuff around helping people hire good people, and we all know that when you hire shitty people, that your life sucks.
Oh, yeah.
But more, that's always whenever we talk about our business stuff, people are like, yawn, yawn, yawn. I mean, those that want to buy don't yawn, but the rest of us yawn. The cool stuff, though, host of Higher Power Podcasts. You get like tens of thousands of download, helping entrepreneurs with the recruiting hurdles. And the show provides insights like bringing myself on, a lot of thought leaders on there, performing disruptors, helping innovators, industry experts. And in addition to this, you're also an author. You have your new book, Healing Career Wounds. It comes out in March.
Yep.
You're a speaker. And on the personal side, I thought this was kind of cool. You do BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, rock climbing. Yep. You look like a surfer. That's the funny part. I'm like, dude, you look kind of like Kelly Slater a little bit.
I am a very white, I haven't been in the water probably in 6 months, and shame on me.
Did you get told that you look like Kelly Slater?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, you look like Kelly Slater.
When I'm really tan, I could probably pull it off.
What's funny is we're old, so my first memory of Kelly Slater is he had hair. But most people who aren't old or as old as we are, or as mature as we are, know him as he has been for probably 20 years.
The correct term would be modern elders. We're modern elders.
We are. If Chip Conley, another guest, would call us a modern elder. So, dude, let me ask you a question, because I find this, I always love when this happens. So we had like a call we had to get on, and I was driving, and I'm in my car, and I get pinged by an 808. And so I don't know if those of you guys that know what I just said means, but whenever I get pinged by an 808, I'm like, dude, this guy's Hawaiian. So tell me about the Hawaii thing, because I saw the Hawaii thing and right away I was like, oh, it's making more sense now.
So I lived in Hawaii for 10 years. I helped to build a really solid recruiting firm, and right around 9/11 timeframe, I just kind of had the opportunity to pack up all my stuff, start over. I sold everything and I moved to Hawaii, and
nice.
Spent 10 years there. My first year I spent pretty much surfing the whole time.
Oh.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I probably look like, oh God, I was probably 33, 34, somewhere in there.
You're so awesome. You had an early life crisis.
I totally did.
You're fuck the mainland. Going to the islands. So you're 33, you're like, all right. Were you in Orange County, then you went to Hawaii?
No, I was in Ventura County.
You're from Ventura?
Yeah, I grew up in Ventura County, and then I moved up to Idaho for a short stint.
Okay.
I kind of fell into my career in Idaho. I moved up there to snowboard, and then fell into a career, and then moved back, helped build up a company, and then I think 5 years later, packed up and moved to Hawaii, and I spent 10 years there, and now I'm back in Orange County, back in, trying to get my daughter to be close to, family.
Yeah, listen, I got family in LA. They fled the orange curtain. I grew up in Orange County though, so I could talk as much shit as I want on that fucking. Totally. Yeah, fuck you, Orange County. Sorry, my OC. A bunch of my listeners are all from Orange County because they're all my high school people. Hey, fuck you, Orange County. Sorry. No. Orange County's got great beaches, and it's got great beaches.
They're okay. They're okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, comparatively speaking, I live in Texas. I live in Texas now, and the beaches here suck.
Well, you're just one big beach, aren't you?
What's that?
Are you just one big beach?
Yeah. Well, no, it's such a big state, man. It's I think it's bigger than California. No, it's mostly, you know what it is? If for those of you guys that haven't spent much time in Texas, it's really simple. You got three really big cities: Texas, Dallas, and Houston, and then everything else is Sacramento. So it's all Sac. It's I was driving from Austin to Houston. And I was I called my friend. I'm like, hey, I just realized something. Texas is a bunch of really big, cool cities, and the rest of it's Sacramento. So, it's my Sac friend. Sorry, I'm being unkind to you. I'm being really unkind to California right now for some reason. Sorry. Where'd you grow up in Ventura?
I grew up in Agora Hills, which is Ventura County. Yeah. In the Ventura County side, so it's LA, Ventura County, kind of right there.
I know Agora. I went to UC Santa Barbara. So
okay.
So
and then when I was a kid, I went to Our Lady of Malibu. Which all my friends think is a joke.
Yeah. Why is it? Because it's like the people.
Because Malibu, it's just.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Malibu's an amazing. It's kind of funny because it's just north of LA.
Yeah.
But it's own little. It's like a small town. Have you seen the Big
By the way,
Lebowski?
I was one of the poor kids that was there. You know, like we came over the canyon.
Hey, you know what? you got to level up. I mean, have you seen the Big Lebowski?
Oh yeah,
dude, I love when he goes to Malibu and the cop gets him, and like that's in that movie, right? Am I thinking of the right movie? Like he goes to Malibu and the cop's like, Lebowski, stay out of my town.
Was that Malibu? Maybe, yeah.
I think that was Malibu. I'm pretty sure it was.
I got to watch that this weekend because I'm totally not up on my Big Lebowski.
Right? Stay the fuck out of my town, Lebowski. So, dude, so you went to Hawaii. Where in Idaho? Were you in Sun Valley?
Yeah.
Oh, listen, I used to own a house in Utah at Snow Basin, which is a Sun Valley resort.
Yeah.
Have you been there before?
No, so I used to when I lived up there. Like I said, I moved out there pretty much to snowboard and fell into a career. And like my goal was just to be able to buy a season pass. So like that, I was forced to get good at my job so I could buy a season pass. Like that was my thing.
And your job was recruiting?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
You're probably the most white collar snowboarder on the mountain. All these other guys are like bartending and waiting tables, and you're banging the phones and placing people.
Yeah. And I would go in early just to make sure that I like beat everybody else. I could snowboard for 2 hours every day at lunch, and then then come back and be able to do it on the weekend.
So you did that. Then you end up back in Cali. Then you're like, all right, I'm going to Hawaii. So 10 years in Hawaii. Where in Hawaii did you go?
Hawaii Kai. So like on Oahu.
Okay, that's the main island, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Like there's a city there, and so I didn't get really. Everybody talks about getting island fever. I think it's kind of hard when you have like a city around you and things to do. But I get island fever. I got more island fever when I lived in Sun Valley, Idaho, than I did on Oahu.
Well, a resort town in Idaho is. I mean, so I owned a house in a resort town for a long time in Snow. It's Ogden Valley in Utah, and I will tell you this, man. I grew up in Southern California, Orange County. Then I moved to San Francisco, and I would go to the house in Utah. Like worst, by the way, don't ever buy a second home unless it's 90-minute drive from your house or less, because you'll never go to it. Yeah. It's the most expensive vacation you'll never take.
Back then either, huh?
No, there was, because I got it in not when I first got it, but there was VRBO or whatever. There was something else. I can't remember what they used to call it before it was VRBO. But besides that, unless you're in like Park City or some like big city, listeners, don't ever buy a second home unless it's 90 minutes or less drive, because you'll never use it, or you'll use it so rare that it becomes the most expensive vacation you don't take. So I will never do it again. But anyhow, I'd go there, and I'm in San Francisco, right? So when you're in San Francisco, like your resonation is at a higher level. You're like around, there's a lot of like interaction, visual interaction, stimulation, cars, buses, fire trucks, people. And it's not like it's New York, but it's still a city. And then I go out there and it would be like quiet, just nothing.
Yeah.
No people, air's crisp, it's quiet. It was, and the reason I say this is that I don't think I would want to live there. It's a cool place to visit, but when I go to Hawaii, oh, dude, just a fucking visual Xanax.
But it's so easy to fall into that like island lifestyle when you're there too. Like, I'll just do it later, and. I had to break my procrastination streak that I had running,
I hear you, man. Every time I never am more relaxed than when I go to Hawaii. Like at a level that it takes a couple days to get there, right? Because you're so wound up from mainland city life or whatever it is, the rat race. Yeah. So I see the allure when people say, "Oh, it gets boring after a while." My wife's cousin lived in Lanikai. Mm-hmm. And they had they lived on a farm out there. And I go out there, man. There's dogs running around. He grows his own tobacco. I didn't even smoke. He's like, you want some tobacco? I'm like, yeah, why not? Handmade tobacco, cigarettes, like it's so cool.
Yeah, it's a great life. I mean, like honestly, the quality of life in Hawaii is outstanding. Like, and people are so welcoming and friendly. you know, I cherish the time that I had there because I made some great friends that are all family.
Would you ever consider going back?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I think that there will be a time where I live in Hawaii. Like it's
either there. I really fell in love with Bali too. So like that'll be a place that
dude, I have a really good buddy, Barry Magliardi, if you're listening, who lives in Bali. He's Australian, he's from Perth, but he lives in Bali. And I see I see his lifestyle, and I'm like, yeah, like when you watch, if you, for listeners who don't have friends that live in places that like this, you just need to go watch. You need to go make friends or pretend like you're friends with somebody, and go follow their like Instagram stories, and then you'll realize how screwed life is in America. You're like, this is the lifestyle I live compared to these people. Like every day is like going to the beach, just hanging out, and it's cheap and fun and nice.
My neighbor from Hawaii actually packed up, moved to Bali, and started a shark protection program. So he owns Bali sharks.
Wow.
Shark rescue or something like that. And so he's been there for like probably 12, 15 years now. And he loves it, man. He's just got, he's always just chill, no stress.
Mm-hmm.
He's breeding and releasing sharks back into the wild and saving them. And that's his thing. And you got to be a little jealous of that.
I don't even know him, and I'm jealous. Yeah, I went to Thailand last year and with some friends, and we were on a boat hanging out, and it was like, it probably had like, I don't know, 50 people or something like that. It was just like cool yacht. And it was like, you pay like $100 a person. They serve you lunch, and you go scuba diving and stuff. And it was cool. It was all wooden. And it was it was a sail. It had engines, but it had sails too. And so we're going for island hopping, and I look at my wife. I'm like, what if we just moved here and owned one of these things, and this is just what we did, And I was like, I'll just bring, and you guys don't know this, but Rick and I are both EOers, right? And I was like, I'll just do a bunch of forum retreats, like come because it had like 4 bedrooms on it, And I was like, yeah, I'm like, if you lived your life like this, like how, like, yeah, you're not going to like, listen, you're not going to accomplish a lot of like things that people who like are in the rat race consider like profound, but you will live literally the most amazing life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Right, now that you just totally depressed me.
Hey, let's go talking about all the other amazing lives. And let's talk about.
I just started like dreaming of like fresh mangoes you're picking off a tree, and fresh codfish, and yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Show's over. Fuck this. Let's go. So yeah, we're out. Peace. So you came back. Why did you like pull the ripcord on Hawaii then? I mean, it's.
You know what? Actually, so my wife and I had a daughter, and most of our family, like my wife's family is in Michigan and in Chicago in the Midwest, and my family's all here, and we kind of made the decision that we didn't want our daughter to grow up not knowing who her family was, like her cousins and all that stuff. So
yeah,
we decided to pack up and move back here. And actually, it was just time for me. It was kind of like, you know what? I've been here for 10 years. I want to go get back into the rat race and build something. I've had this goal where I want to build a really significant, big, BHAG organization, right? And so.
Dude, listen, I built a BHAG organization. They're halfway to their BHAG right now. You want to know what the BHAG was?
Wait, what was it?
For my last business I just left, I exited it. It was to help 1 million homeowners gain and retain home ownership in 10 years. And they just hit over 500,000 like 2 months ago.
Wow.
And you want to know what the number was the day I got there?
What?
It wasn't a startup. It was a company that was already in existence.
Okay.
5,000 was the number then. So that was super small. Yeah, it was really small. And I was like, million in 10 years. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And I'm like, we're going to do it. Literally 500,000 right now.
Huh.
It's pretty cool. They'll hit the million too. I think they'll hit it in 3 years.
My BHAG is to help 1 million entrepreneurs hire the right person every time.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So let's take steps. So now you move back to the mainland. You start this new business. Tell us about the business you started at the mainland and how it's taking to where you're at right now.
Yeah, so Stride Search. I mean, like most of my career, I even though I've never lived in the Bay Area, I've done all my recruiting for tech people in the San Francisco Bay Area in the Silicon Valley, right? So that's been my world that I played in. Even when I was in Hawaii, I had a small company over there. We were still doing recruiting over there. You mentioned the 808 number, and the reason why I kept my 808 number. One of them is because when people get a call from Hawaii, people take your call
every time.
Yeah.
It's like, who's the guy from Hawaii calling me right now?
Exactly. Right. So, yeah, I moved back here. We started up Stride Search, and we're a retained search firm. We work with startups, and we help startups get the right leadership in place. Primarily on the engineering and sales, marketing, operations side.
So you guys are doing it on the engineering? Did you say on the engineering itself or on the sales and marketing side? Sorry, I missed that.
Engineering, sales, and marketing operations.
Okay, and so you're working primarily with high tech startups.
Yeah.
Which now is like,
Yeah, or companies that actually have kind of a tech related, part to their business.
And so, are you working with like seed stage, early stage, late stage, funded, all the above, like public? Like what are we talking about here?
Yeah, we usually get pretty entrenched in the like Series A, Series B round funded startups. That's kind of our sweet spot. Where they've got some traction, they need systems in place and really figure out, do they have the right people on the bus, as Gino says, and in the right person, right seat.
Right.
We kind of help out with that. And we kind of build in and around the company's core values. So what's important to the company is that they have people that align well with those corporate values, so that they can kind of they can illustrate that and live that on their daily basis, but then they can also take those and cultivate those core values. So we just build our whole interview process and really everything around those, that one core thing, which is, I think that's where you and I bonded, was your corporate, like your values and your culture is really going to determine how high you fly.
Yeah. I mean, like I say in my book, and we talked about this on your show, is the core values are a filter, right? And they're a magnet for the right talent. They detract the wrong talent if you use them properly. To walk me through how you guys do that as a process with your customers.
So we actually build it into the interview process, right? So here's the thing, like, you can evaluate people based on what you think you need for the role. But when you kind of really delve into an interview process, a lot of times it's just kind of like more based on likability and whether or not you think you could work with the person. And there's really not a lot of evidence that's gained in that interview to support, like, hey, like this person really exemplifies our corporate value of customer obsession. Here, I'm pulling one from Amazon, right? Customer obsession, because when he was at XY, or he or she was at XYZ company, they did this, and this, and this was the result, right? So there's not so we dig down more into providing and writing the questions that extract that, and then we teach the executives how to really run a really solid behavioral interview and understand how to turn it into a conversation and gather that evidence to support making the hire.
What do you think is and have you read the book Who or Top Rating?
Yeah, of course.
Right. Yeah. So I love the fork, fear of reference check. Do you guys teach them that as well?
So like, I went on this like mission like quite a few years ago where like I wanted to kind of like just where I just kind of sucked up what everybody was doing. I did some training and stuff like that, and I read all those books. I just had challenges with a lot of them because
it's super hard to build a business to do all that shit.
Yeah. Top grade. Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah. Let me make my interview process 6 months long. And I could barely by the way, I'm the one doing the work in the business. I might work at like General Electric or GM or Chevy or these massive companies where they have 15 layers of management. But in a normal business, you're like, Yeah, dude. I have to go open the cash register. I don't have time to do 3 group tandem interviews and take them to the barbecue and the beer and the picnic.
Yeah, my argument is, hey, look at all you need with each person is 45 minutes and 4 questions. That's it.
What 4 questions?
So there are 4 questions that are assigned to you based on whichever number interview you are, and essentially, you're asking these questions. One of them we build in as a knockout question. So if it's something that's completely off of what your corporate values are, you kind of end the interview there and thank them for their time, and you move on.
Oh, so if they get it wrong, you're like, all right, this is good, we're done.
Yeah.
Like, give me an example. Let's do here. I'm going to interview for a job at your company, and give me your knockout question. Wait, give me hold on. Before you give me the knockout, you got to give me the like a couple like grapefruit softballs, and then throw me the knockout.
Okay, so like what I'll do is I'll load you up on like one that we like to judge for. This was one of my clients that I got from them. Actually, they were like, "This is a question we love, works really well." So, do you consider yourself, Darius, to be lucky?
So, what's the role I'm interviewing for?
Doesn't matter.
You know, I think that luck is 50% of the equation. You know, like there's a lot of things that are outside of our control that sometimes go our way. For me, I'm pretty neutral. There's a word in Buddhism called equanimity, which I try to be an equanimous person, which is good or bad, things happen, and I try to not let either affect me. When things go my way, it's luck. When things go out of my way, that's just chance, and whatever happens, happens.
Okay. So without delving into that too much or taking it deeper, because we can, now I usually dig into, like, give me an example of what you mean by that, explain that to me a little bit deeper.
Yeah, let's do it. We're going to role play.
Oh, we are? Okay.
Oh yeah, let's do it. I want to show the audience what it looks like to do your process.
Sure. Okay. So, like, what does that mean to you? Like, so give me an idea. You totally caught me off guard. All right, so like walk me through, like, what would that look like for you? Like how do you, like, what's the situation that you have come across that kind of built for you?
That would exemplify that for me. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, which, so let's just say I was an entrepreneur. I'll use entrepreneur. So, my last business, I was the CEO of the business, and, in 2016, we had Brexit happen out of nowhere. And when Brexit happened, interest rates went from a pretty higher place to an all-time low. And it was awesome. And I was drinking from a fire hose and just got to work. I was working like 12, 14 hours a day to take advantage of it. We took our staff size from 300 to 1,000 employees in literally like 9 months. It was insane. Like my biggest month, we hired 140 employees. And then, I mean, literally 140 employees was the hiring in 28 business or 22 business days. Imagine that, right? Mm-hmm. And then in November of that year, Trump got elected, and the rates pulled a full U-turn, and I had to downsize from 1,000 to 540 employees in the next 4 months. So one was an example of things that went my way, good luck, and we took full advantage of it. And then the inverse of that was, this anomaly happened. No one expected Trump to win the presidency. When he did, like literally it was the opposite. And we had no warning, and it was very disruptive. And now you're dealing with people's lives, and we had to manage through that. And it was a really, challenging period, but we did it and learned a lot from it. And we're better off at the end, and took our lessons and built a better business after that.
So one of the things that I'm looking for on this question is really what your attitude is, right? So what ends up happening a lot of times is somebody's either going to say, kind of like you did, well, I'm not really lucky, but I'm blessed, or, I feel like I've been fortunate, or whatever. It's more of a, what's your attitude on life, right? We've had people that have interviewed that said, no, you know what? Every time I go to Vegas, I lose. Like I can't bet, I can't do this.
Negative.
You're looking for, right? And that's where that question is kind of cleverly disguised.
I love that question. Are you a negative person? And it's a derivative. I call those derivative questions, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you would have said, man, I don't know, man, and you have kind of a sob story, that's your outlook on life, right?
Yeah.
Whether you choose to recognize it or not, that's what it is.
And they'll bring it into the workplace, right? So this is a person who, if they tend to be negative, they'll accidentally, they don't even know they're telling you they're being negative. Yep. Those are my fit. So what I call that is reading between the lines, right?
Yeah.
What are they not telling me that I need to figure out? And I love that question.
Yeah.
That's a great question. And so I would be hireable. You'd be like, oh, Darius is like.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, you passed the knockout question. Now I'm going to probably dig into one of my other corporate values that I'm assigned to, and we're going to have a conversation about it pretty deep. So I'm, give me an example of, a difficult situation you had, the most difficult situation you had in your last role.
Got it. And those are a little bit, obviously those are a little bit more standard questions.
They
right?
kind of are, but we like to tailor them to where they're deliberately written so that they extract the data that supports one of the corporate values.
Got it. Yeah. We did that at our business. We would tell them, here's our number one core value. This is what it means to us. Could you give us an example of when you maybe lived that and when you didn't live that in your last business?
Yeah.
I like going that route. It does two things. Number one, did they do the homework to look and see what our values were? And if they didn't, then that's a red flag. And number two, let's just, whether I can discern that or not, is the answer they're giving the right answer based on what I'm looking for from an alignment standpoint, right?
Yeah. And you can honestly even just give them the questions.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Get them prepared for it.
Yeah, because and let's see how well they prepare for it.
Oh, I love that. That's super smart. Oh, these nuggets. You were dropping nuggets.
I pulled these nuggets years ago I interviewed at Amazon, and actually this was something that Amazon does. And they, I was fascinated by the fact that I talked to 4 people, and they all had questions. I could figure out which ones were designed to kind of which ones fit with what core principles.
Right.
Customer obsession for them is like the big one. So I just knew I had to prepare really well on how I delighted a customer and really how I, gave wow, I guess, or
nice.
Yeah. And so that's what you see in that interview. You see how well people prep for it. If you provide them the questions and they still fail.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I actually think that's better because you're like, hey, dude, here's the answer to the quiz. The guy shows up and still doesn't get if he doesn't get 100, you're like, I mean, you literally, unless he gets an 80 and those 2 are little slight misses, but maybe they just didn't understand the question or whatever. But if they come in bomb, you're like, you didn't prepare. And if you don't prepare for something that you want before you have it, what are you gonna do once you're already here? Love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then a part of it too is, most people don't know that they want what they, whether or not they even know whether they want to work for your company. Right. So, it's your job as the entrepreneur, the business leader, the person who's kind of leading this to help connect the dots for that person as to the value that my opportunity brings to your life. Because that's really a lot of the mind shift that you see in a lot of people. It's not as much about the money so much anymore. It's about growth. It's about, being in a situation where you have some mentor or leadership. It's about being in a position where I can position myself for a greater position later on down the road.
Yeah.
And people just don't have that.
Oh, I love it, man. I want to ask you, do you mind if I pull hang a right and we could talk about the Higher Power Radio podcast?
Yeah, please.
Let's talk. So this is how we met, obviously, is as I did your show. But when did you decide to launch the Higher Power Radio podcast?
God, we've been doing it 4 years now. So it was kind of an interesting, it started out kind of as an HR podcast, but it really the way that it started was I was kind of coerced to start it. I was in a tech space, which is kind of like a WeWork. And one of the guys on my floor had a internet radio station, business radio station called OC Talk Radio. And every time I would go to the bathroom, he'd accost me and basically say, dude, you got to start a podcast. You got to, so he broke me down, and I really had no interest in doing it at first, but then, it kind of became a really good ability for me to meet more business leaders. So I started it from the premise of like, hey, I want to get in front of people who are movers and shakers here in Orange County, the CEOs, the people who are doing things. So yeah, I found something really interesting with the podcast. So like when you call people and you invite them to be on the podcast, they returned your call.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, yeah, sure, I'm happy to be on it. And then you can develop a relationship and get to know people that are fascinating, great people. They normally, if you're trying to sell them something, they're just going to retreat.
Yeah, they're like, I'm not buying. You're like, hey, do you want to come on my show? They're like, oh yeah. It's amazing. It's such a. I heard somebody say, they said, coming on someone's podcast is the equivalent of having a cup of coffee in 2018. It's like 2018's cup of coffee is 2020's be on my podcast.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I had to tell my assistant. I said, hey, we got to start screening with these podcasts better, because some of them, because I was saying yes to like all of them, and then my calendar got crushed. And then I was like, I get on some of them, like, this is like, no offense to the people whose podcast I'm thinking about right now, the sketch, and like they're not professional. Like it's just like some dude with a camera at his house. I mean, I'm a guy, I do with the camera in my house, but I have a full setup, I've invested in it.
I've been pretty deliberate about like, I want to bring content that's going to be valuable to an entrepreneur. Like that's it.
Yeah.
If they can't give me that. I mean, I say no to more people, as you have in a show, that like now there's all these marketing firms that will send you, hey, do you want to have so-and-so on as a guest? We take maybe 10% of them, but we still actively make calls and talk to people, and we're referred to. And, we want to talk to people who have a great story about, where they fucked up hiring and how they overcame it, or, maybe they're still screwing up.
Yeah, that's super smart.
Fix it.
Well, and it's such a good way. We had a guest on the show last week, and he was talking about, he has a marketing company that uses podcaster marketing, right? So they'll build your podcast, they'll help you do your book, they'll use that as a funnel, they'll use the podcast as a way to do biz dev. So it's all about building relationships, to your point, and then it becomes a lead magnet, because you can bring on your clients and you can bring on your prospects, and you build relationships and or get testimonials, and then use that. Now you've created content that you could then repurpose to then show clients like, hey, this is an interview we did with so-and-so. You might be interested in hearing what they had to say. And it's a 45-minute session where casually we're talking about how we do what we do, right? And you can learn, like right now, anyone that's listening to this, knows that you're a smart recruiter that does really, or your business does really intelligent recruiting that's values-based. Yeah. And they know that Darius, when he ran his business, uses that stuff too, and that I'm all about the recruiting process, right? So if someone wanted to do business with me or get me to be the CEO of their company, they would at least have an understanding about how I think about it. And if they wanted to hire you, they would know that this is how you do it, and that you're like smart about it, and that you do it your own way. Yeah. You don't have to tell them anything. Like, we'd have to call them up and tell them. They already know it by secondhand nature, right? Yeah.
Here's the thing, like, as an outside kind of agency or an entity, right? And I help companies out. My number one goal is to save the time of the people who are doing the interviewing. So if I can get them to maximize their time, to be able to have one person interview and say, nope, this person doesn't fit because of this, that's a win, right? If I can, basically present two people and they hire one, boom, I just saved a ton of time. So that's really, like where a lot of this came from, is that, hey, if I can add a lot more value to your business, rather than just kind of just slinging resumes at you, then, hey, we've got something good here.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah. So it's been around for 4 years. You guys, how often do you guys do episodes? Like every week or every other week? Yeah,
we're every Tuesday at noon on LinkedIn Live. It was we just kind of carried through our radio station schedule. So we just try to do it same time every week.
Nice.
Yeah, I missed one day so far. That's been it. So like I've gone out pretty religiously every week.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
And so from that, now we have the book. Tell us about the book.
So it's called Healing Career Wounds, and it's the subtitle is, your startup secret weapon to attract, hire, and retain ridiculously successful people. And what that means is it's a plug and play system that you can plug into your business that actually is pretty interchangeable with any entrepreneurial operating system that you might be running. Like if you're running EOS or something like that, we fit in like right in the people piece, right? So we can give you like, here's, once you have your values outlined, okay, here's how you write the job, like your interview questions. Here's how you write job descriptions. Here's how you are going to structure your interview process. And so, and what to say when you call somebody that you hear of, like, hey, Darius, my buddy John is pretty good. He works over at XYZ company. It gives you even a script on what to say when you call that person, or even cold call a person that you've heard is good.
Nice.
And so, like, that's what we want to do. We want to educate like all the entrepreneurs so that like when they don't have those really costly hiring mistakes, especially when it's so critical to the business.
Oh, especially if you're like, let's say you have 100 people and you make 2 bad hires, that's 5% of your population. It's fucked up.
10 though, and you make 2 bad, like 1 bad hire.
Oh, 10 and 2, 20% of your staff's, like, no offense, sucks.
Yeah, that's the worst though, but it happens all the time.
You know what it is funny too? Here's my biggest
totally avoidable.
Oh, well, it just requires, you got to do the work on the front end, right? You got to do the homework, and you got, and even then it happens sometimes, right? But it's you're lowering the chances of it, right? Because there's just people out there with like personality disorders where they say they do everything amazing in the hiring process, and they get in there and you're like, whoa, where did this come from?
Yeah,
like what happened to you when you were a kid?
But it's there. You just didn't do well in the interview process.
You didn't ask them what they think about how lucky they are.
Right. Well, yeah. That's where like where top grading really works is like for 3 hours they're going to drill down to everything from like your childhood all the way up to where you are now, right?
Yeah.
Does anybody have 3 hours to sit there and do that? I don't know.
You know what's funny? So I did top grading when I first got introduced to like scaling up. Before this is back in 2006, and I met Jeff Smart, and the son, right? That's Jeff Smart.
Yeah.
So he came and spoke to my EMP group, which was called Birthing Giants back in the day, and I came home and I rolled out. The first thing I rolled out was top grading. And I was getting crushed. And I would do these 3-hour interviews, and people wouldn't come back for the second interview because they're like, that was too long. It might have served its purpose.
Scale, God, if God forbid you have 20 roles you have to fill, right? Like,
right. What
so much time? What
if I was doing that in August of 2016 when I hired 140 people?
Oh God.
Who would have done it?
You would have been working 24/7.
It was an impossibility. My team was already stretched as it was. So yeah, you got to like. I mean, there's parts of it that are cool, but you do have to, I think, streamline the process. My whole take on this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is there's complexity and simplicity. You got to make it simple. You got to make it efficient. You got to make it smart, and you got to make it where it's not extra work for your team. Yeah. You got to make it where it fits into what they're already doing. And yeah, like it's obviously work to hire someone, but can you make it? Do I literally need to like take someone under the knife, open their body up, and look at every single organ, or can I just scan the body quickly using technology and like make it fast, right?
Yeah, seems to me like a quick body scan is probably the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah, what happens is people don't do either. They just like go, it looks good to me. Hey, touch your toes. Oh, you did good. There you go.
Mistake of like the two things that I see like God like just make me cringe, or one, they fall in love with the background, like, oh my God, this guy's out of Google, he's gonna be amazing, right? Yeah. And then they just run off this list of assumptions. Yeah. And then the second thing is they hire purely for skills.
Yeah, the
person's done it, they have 4 years of this. Oh, and God, please don't get me started on years of experience, because that doesn't mean anything. You can still be really shitty at something and have 10 years experience.
Yeah, you can be extra shitty.
Yeah.
Because you have bad habits that you picked up that now you bring into my organization. That I was like, whoa, you're a cultural mismatch, and you have bad habits, and your skills are like good, but not that good,
But I also think that, a bad hire for a company is it's on the company. It's not
Totally.
it's on you if you do it. And the fact of the matter is, it's that person that you hired that was a bad hire for you is probably a great hire for somebody else. So you're doing them a disservice
Totally.
by even doing it. So that's why the whole cultural, like, corporate values are so important.
You just hit the nail on the head. This is something that I just want to make a point. Like you just said, that bad hire for you may be a great hire for someone else. And I'm under the impression, at least my assumption, is that everyone wants to do a good job. Like, nobody's like, man, I just can't wait to go fuck that company up. What are you looking forward to today? Fucking up my job. Like, nobody ever, right? Just like there's nobody in the world that where you said, hey, do you have a good work ethic? And they're like, nah, not really. I just like to chill. Like, that person didn't show up to the interview to begin with, right? So the reality is that they might be doing a job for a paycheck because they really are just trying to make a paycheck and they can't get the job they want. I think that's the lesser. That's rare. I actually think, to your point, it's on the.
It's really common though that people will take a job for a paycheck.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not saying people won't do it. I'm saying
they're interviewing and they're looking for their dream job, or like they're at least.
Yeah. You're their BATNA. You're the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So yeah, I don't want to be anyone's BATNA. But no, what I was going to say is that what my position on this was, we always own it when we hire the person, and that it's on us to make sure they're right for the job. It's on them to come and deliver what they said they're going to deliver. If it doesn't work out, we have to take ownership of it, give them the benefit of the doubt. And unless there's like a deal killer, and there's deal killers that happen. People come in. We had a guy come in once, and I don't want to even give any semblance as to who this person was, but kind of a misogynist. And I was like, and all his direct reports were females, and I was like, this is deal killer. Like, I don't even know I've never had it happen before. Yeah. And so he didn't last that long, and it became a problem. But those types of things happen.
Luckily, it didn't become like a lawsuit, right? Like, okay.
And anyway,
no, I mean, there's a danger, right? That's the cost of a bad hire. So whatever it came out to be, I mean, it's far more detrimental to a company, especially a startup, than companies like 300 to 400 people. I mean, Google can absorb a bunch of assholes and not even bat an eye. They'll just farm them out, but it doesn't hurt them.
Yeah, I could put a drop of cyanide in a reservoir and everyone's cool. But if I put a drop of cyanide in a shot glass, you're fucked. Right? I mean, that's the reality, right?
Great analogy, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And you could dilute that toxicity in a bigger company because it just becomes one little problem area that you kind of can work around until you fix it.
Yeah.
In a small company, it literally could destroy the company pretty quickly.
Yeah. And it has, I think, lots and lots of companies in the past.
Yeah.
So, it's funny because I think that most of the entrepreneurs that we've worked with have been second-time entrepreneurs, and they've lived that nightmare.
Yeah, it sucks. And my fix on it was, and I didn't even have your full system, but I kind of played with a little bit of top grading. My fix was try to figure out what they're not telling me, which we talked about earlier, and really doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on core values and just using that as a tool. And that served me pretty well. I mean, I probably could have taken my B to an A by doing your stuff, but I was just run-of-the-mill B, and we did it pretty well.
Still probably an A compared to most companies that don't even. It's like, hey, Bill, just go interview so and so. There's this resume. Good luck. Go. What's he interviewed for? I don't know. Just
ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate the fact that on a curve I'm an A.
You are an A. You're definitely an A.
I'm an A player.
You at least had a system and you had a bit of a methodology down, right? And that's far more there's the amount of companies that I talk to that don't have anything, and they're just like, I don't know, we just schedule it on somebody's calendar and just see what happens.
I will say this. We had a great system. We had a heavy reference check. We did a system, Criteria Corp. We used their testing.
Yes, they're one of our sponsors. They're amazing.
Oh, yeah. So Criteria. So anyone that don't know Criteria Corp, they have spatial reasoning, verbal mathematics, and then my favorite of the four, which by far and away most people don't think about, is their tech ability. How good are they at can they open a freaking browser and open email? Like, do they have? We would have people fail that, and I'm like, how are they supposed to work?
Yeah.
So we would do that, and I would have my managers. Here's something you'll appreciate, Rick. I'd have my managers fight me on it because the spatial reasoning score would be like literally they could barely read. They're like, oh, but they interviewed so well. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, the minimum score is 20, man. They're like a 14. And minimum's 20, meaning like the highest like 50. They're like a 14. I'm like, and so what I would do, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I always say I'll give everyone their get out of jail free card. I tell all my managers, you get one where you can break our process, but just know that if you break our process, you're never allowed to ask ever again. So you get one, and they'd always use it early because they think they know better, and then it'll blow up in their face, and then I'd be like, I'm in a second sign every hire now. So sorry. What do you think about that?
Hey, it works, right?
You're like, I wouldn't do it. You're out of your mind, Darius.
No. You know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, enabling them to make the decision. Ultimately, they have to live with it. But if you were wrong, which I'm guessing you probably weren't most of the time.
No, never, not even once.
And you'd be happy to be wrong. I'm always happy to be wrong.
Yeah, it's a win when I'm wrong. I want to be wrong.
Yeah. But I have them win to me, but
Yeah, they get mad. You know why? Because what they'll do is they'll bring in their people from former businesses who they know can perform, but they're probably not a cultural fit.
Yeah,
and that's why they're not getting hired. That's they're I know they're good. I'm like, look, they're good wherever they were, but they may not be good here. To your point, someone that's great somewhere else may not be good here because we have a strong culture. If I have a culture where anything goes, then maybe they're right. Because I got a bunch of cancer over there. I got healthy people over there. That maybe they pissed each other off. Maybe they don't. By the way, I'm describing like half of companies out there.
Yeah, totally.
But we were not. We were very intentional.
Right. It's funny. I think where a lot of other companies get in trouble is like the warrior culture, right? And then they totally mislabel, whatever they think that their culture is. They pull some buzzwords out of a hat and decide, hey, let's be a teamwork oriented environment when it's dog eat dog and I'm gonna stab you at the back at every time. And then they hire people that are collaborative and they go, I don't wonder why that person didn't work out.
Yeah. I mean,
it seems so nice.
Our number one core value is teamwork makes the dream work.
Right.
I'm like, no, it should be spear. I'm going to spear your ass in the head when you're not looking. Dude.
Core value, watch your back.
Yeah, watch your back.
Be honest.
Right.
Like if that's seriously your corporate values, then own it.
Own it.
Yeah.
Values, chapter 3 of my book, core values don't need to be nice.
Nope.
You don't, dude. I love it, man. Well, hey, listen, we're coming at the top of the hour. Why don't we tell people where they can find you, when and where they can watch the show, get the book, all that goody stuff?
Yeah, sure. So the book is going to be out in March. I think we're shooting for early March. We're just kind of like in the final stages of getting everything together. God, it's a lot of work doing a damn book, huh, Darius?
Oh, by the way, the first day you start is the day it launches.
Yeah. And I've been working on writing it for like 2 years. So, and then I went back and I probably tweaked it like 100 times at least.
I'm going to give you bad news right now. The easy part is writing the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's twice you've depressed me today.
Hey, go to Hawaii and just chill out and don't worry about
it. You can find the podcast at Hire. That's HIRE, Power, POWER, Radio, RADIO.com. And so like, we cater to entrepreneurs. It's not an HR podcast. So, please don't not listen to it because you're not an HR person. Yeah.
No, I was on it. If you like my shit, then you'll love. But we chopped it up. We just talked all about values and hiring and building better teams.
Yeah, and how it's super important, especially if you're building a company. Like that should be the number one thing you're thinking of.
I always tell people the CEO's job. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're probably a CEO or you're in a position of decision making. But I always say the CEO's job is really 3 things. Number 1, hire the right leaders. Number 2, set the right tone for the culture. And number 3, you own all the mistakes.
Yep.
Like that's it. Like, sorry. I actually, that's not true. hire the right people, set the right culture and strategy, but you do own the mistakes too.
Yeah, that's true. And then you can find my business at stridesearch.com. So
cool. So stridesearch.com and is that, and Higher Power Radio. We have that in the comments. So guys, check it out. Great show. You said it's Wednesdays at noon Pacific?
Tuesdays at noon.
And that's Pacific Standard?
Yeah. So we do the live stream on LinkedIn Live Tuesdays at noon, and we put the podcast out every Thursday.
Cool. Let's do this also. Jade, can you put Rick's LinkedIn profile in there so people can hook up with him on LinkedIn? That way they can, yeah, we got it there. Perfect. So we got your LinkedIn profile. Follow Rick on Stride Search, and you can also check out the Higher Power Radio Show, which is an awesome show, super professional, great content. But man, brother, we start off with some incubus. We end with some depressing shit around hiring. Man, I appreciate you so much. Congratulations on the book. I'm looking forward to it being a big hit. And yeah, guys, check out Rick and all his good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Darius. Been a hoot.
All right, guys. Peace out. We love you. We'll see you guys next week. We out of here.